In a world full of distractions, there is one big question on every dog owner's lips.
How do I become more than just the person holding the other end of the leash?
We all get dogs with a dream in mind, a vision of the future. And if right now your everyday reality isn't quite that picture you had in mind, you are in the right place.
It really doesn't have to be this way.
You absolutely can and will be more to your dog than just the person who gets in between them and the world.
The key is you need to be more sexy.
More sexy than the neighbourhood cat.
More sexy than the jogger in the park.
More sexy than that half-eaten hamburger they just found on the floor.
And yes, even more sexy than the dog across the road.
I'm Tom.
And I'm Lauren.
Together we're Absolute Dogs.
And you're listening to the Sexier Than a Squirrel podcast.
Welcome to this episode of the Sexier Than a Squirrel podcast, the podcast that teaches you how to have a really focused dog and as a result have a level of freedom with your dog that you kind of dreamt of when you got a dog in the first place.
Now, I know when I'm out and about with my dogs, maybe we're up on the moors or maybe we're at the beach or maybe we're going down to the woodlands or we're hanging out in the fields, and yes, we are very lucky in Devon in the UK. There are some amazing spots to walk. Now,
often raining, but they're amazing
Still
locations.
Still amazing. Sun always shines if you're, mindset is everything. Yeah. So basically,
or an umbrella.
Umbrella works.
Yeah.
Basically, for us, having your dog off lead and relying on them and knowing that they're with you and you're a team and you're out there together, and it just feels, for me, like one of the most empowering things that I've ever experienced. And yet, let's say, trying to think, maybe 2, 3, 4, trying to think, many experiences of feeling not like that. I'm thinking how it feels when it goes wrong. And this is in the last year. I've been out with a friend. We were walking on the moors. One of her dogs bogged off. I've been out with a client and having her Labrador just literally tear around in a really uncomfortable way.
I've had an interesting one where I had four dogs, my 4 dogs with me, and then we were walking with a friend and their dog, and their dog saw sheep a couple of fields away and managed to dart under the fence and was like committed to getting to those sheep.
I'm thinking one more, and the one that I'm thinking is on the beach. A friend's dog basically ran and found a dead thing and was just rolling in it, but it was so far up on the field and up on the beach, so far ahead. And when you can see something going really horribly wrong and you're going, no, like get off that thing, and nothing you can do about it. Nothing. Now, that's how a lot of people's reality is, right, Tom?
Yeah, absolutely. And what we wanted to dedicate this episode of the podcast to is actually what we see as the 3 pillars to freedom with your dog, the 3 pillars to a focused dog and achieving that level of trust with your dog.
I suppose there's a level of reliability, consistency, actually having a dog that you can really rely on and like you said, trust. That is such an amazing feeling when I walk past sheep and I walk past stock and things like that, I'm like, I've got this. That's a nice feeling.
And that moment actually that I'm thinking of, I actually had a moment of doubt where obviously there were 5 dogs. One of them had run off, committed to trying to get to the sheep, and I had a moment of thinking, what if my dogs do? And then I looked down at them and they kind of looked up at me like, what if we do? And I was like, good job, guys. It's all fine. And they just stuck with me.
And it is one of those moments that you actually can kind of like, wobble. And I think the thing I was thinking at the beginning is I've had experiences in the past in my own dog ownership. So maybe I would say, I don't know, I'm trying to think, how old would Poppy be? Like 15 years ago, where actually I felt completely out of control, completely out of my comfort zone, completely like I literally don't belong, like I shouldn't own a dog, and like I absolutely could be so much better for my dog and for me, and just how embarrassing. So I've had the moments of owning the dog that I really wished I was better for, and I really wished I'd made a better job of it. And I suppose what I'm saying is, I felt guilty, and at the same time I also felt completely incompetent, and that's a horrible way to feel.
Yeah, absolutely. So what we're going to do is we are going to get rid of that, and we are going to replace it with really a system that you can think, okay, how am I going to grow these pillars with my dog? So the first pillar that kind kind of supports this freedom that you can have with your dog is something that we call disengagement. Now, what disengagement is your dog seeing distractions, thinking, ooh, those distractions look enticing, sexy, inviting, and then thinking, hold on a second, they are none of my business.
Let me interrupt myself and let me not do that. Now, I had a very similar experience at lunchtime where I disengaged from the birthday cake. Yeah. I absolutely did. It's they are none of my business right now. I need to behave myself. And you know what I would say to all of you guys is that it doesn't matter what you fill that distraction in with. It might be squirrel, it might be a magpie, it might be pigeon, it might be duck, it might be any of the above. It might be horse or sheep or cyclist or jogger or horse poo. Any of those things are something your dog might need to disengage from.
Yeah, absolutely. And so what is this concept of disengagement and how do we grow it? Well, first of all, the concept of disengagement is your dog seeing value in moving away from things. So they see things and they're like, meh, I'm going to move away from it. That's the ideal response. The ideal response is no response. And this is the kind of the foundation upon which we build focus. But how do you grow it? Well, first of all, you've got your dog's daily food allowance, right? It's a pot of value. Disengagement is about teaching your dog there's value in moving away from things.
Now, so many people will say, when we say about pots of value, they'll say, but hang on a second, I feed raw, or hang on a second, I feed this certain thing that isn't possible. You know what? It is all possible. In fact, it's one of the things that we go through in the Sexier Than a Squirrel program, where we're talking about how you can ditch the bowl. We literally have an ebook as to set it all out for you, and we have a ditch the bowl ebook, and we have a ditch the bowl raw edition where we really raw. And the thing is, it is really possible, right? So we'll give you loads of different strategies as to how to do that. And that's something that we know that people can struggle with. And at the same time, we know that we can overcome it very easily with some of our simple solutions.
Absolutely. And so one of the games that you will learn in the Sexier Than a Squirrel program is effectively a disengagement game, and it teaches disengagement. And so what you're going to do is you're going to get some of your dog's daily food allowance. You are going to have your dog on lead so that, you know, everything's safe, everybody's safe, and you're working with distractions that actually your dog can just about think through. They can deal with, right? And what you're going to do is you're going to throw one piece of food in the direction of that distraction. Now, the distraction might be a whole field away. That might be the distance that you're working at right now. That is great. Your dog's going to go and eat that piece of food. They're going to orient back to you. And when they orient back to you, that's the moment of disengagement. You can mark that. You can say, yes, great job, amazing, woohoo, well done, whatever it might be. And then what you're going to do is you're going to walk away from the distraction. Now, remember, the concept of disengagement is your dog seeing value in moving away from distractions. So what are we going to do with the value that is our dog's daily food allowance? We're going to feed as we walk away. And so if we were to think about this as a scatter graph of where the value is, right? If you were to think about a map and the distractions on the right side of the map and you're on the left side of the map, and you start heading away from the distraction and you're feeding, there will be little kind of scatter graph points, value points. There'd be more value points away from the distraction than towards it. And that's how you create disengagement.
So many people accidentally put more value into being away from them than they do into being close. Just think about the very simple £2 piece of kit that you can buy at most places, a chuck it thrower, many brands available. Those are, for me, one of the worst things to teach a dog that actually go a heck of a long way away from me. Of course, some dogs do choose to bring it back, but not every dog does. And actually, you put a hell of a lot of value away from you, and you start to have a dog who hangs out away from you. And actually, what we're looking to create initially, for sure, at first, is a dog who actually knows how to disengage from things, and that actually you are the cool person to hang out with, right? Like, absolutely. Actually, where do we want the value?
Yeah. So, you know, Lauren's rightly said there that, we need to grow, inspire, and teach disengagement by, you know, using that daily food allowance and playing games, but also every time your dog engages with a distraction, because maybe they're not on lead and they've run off, or maybe we just pushed them too far and put them in a situation they weren't ready for, and they've interacted with that distraction, whether it be a squirrel, a half-eaten hamburger, or a chicken, well, you betcha that is going to create that scattergraph point with that distraction, and they're going to see more value interacting with the distractions than with you.
And so, for sure, exactly how Tom has explained there, it's important that we just even consider, when we consider disengagement and everything else, where is the value? Like, where do we want the value? Show them where it's at, show them where we want the value, and show them where we want to keep the value. At the same time, of course, going out there's a little bit of value. Coming back, there's so much more.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's the first pillar, right? So you've taken notes. You're like, okay, I'm going to remember that one. I'm going to grow disengagement.
And maybe you've taken notes in your head because we know some of you are driving. So please keep driving.
Please be safe. Okay?
Focus on the road.
And then the second pillar. Now, the second pillar is engagement with you. Now that we've taught, disengagement from the environment, see the distraction and think, meh, it's a distraction. It's none of my business. Now we want to inspire engagement with you. Now, think about the distractions that your dog loves. Maybe it's squirrel, maybe it's the chicken, maybe it's the other dog, whatever it might be.
And there are so many out there, guys. So remember, your dog will have their own flavor.
Yes.
Your dog's flavor could be anything from chicken to pony.
Yeah.
You know what? Your dog will have their own sort of special things that really light them up. Just observe them. Those are good for you to know.
Absolutely. And so what we need to do is we need to create experiences with us and interactions with us that actually are going to make our dogs think, hold on a second, our owners are really fun. Now, the way that we do that is by playing games, and the games, you can't just play one game with your dog to build this. You actually need to play lots of different games, because one of the reasons why they love that squirrel is because of the variety. So, if you get your new puppy, and we've all had this experience a little bit where we show them a tennis ball for the first time, or we show them a new toy or a frisbee, and they play with that toy, and we're like, oh my gosh, I've cracked it, they're gonna recall forevermore. And day one it's going great, day two we play the same game with them and they're like, yep, this is brilliant. And then we get complacent, and then we play the same game again and the same game again, and before you know it, your dog kind of looks at you and they're like, I know that game and I don't want to play it.
Nah.
Yeah.
So basically you end up with having a nah answer.
Yeah.
And Tom knows this because he owns Poodles.
And poodles are the best trainers of dog trainers, because what they do is they like variety, and to the point where if you ask them to do the same thing 3 times, they'll be like, okay, you clearly want something different, so I'm gonna do the sit, but I'm going to also raise my right front paw.
They are highly intelligent, and so they wonder why on earth you would keep asking them to do the same thing over and over. Now, if you own a poodle, please tell us all about it. We love to hear about your dogs. And
Team
you know what?
Poodle.
Tell us about all your dogs. We love hearing about them. Where can people get in touch with us and talk to us and tell us about their dogs and their struggles and all of these things, Tom?
So first things first, if you haven't kind of left a review of the podcast, please do so. And that's a great way of kind of letting us know about you and why you listen and what you love.
And tell us about your dog. Tell us about all of what you're about.
We love to hear from you, and so you can do that on Apple Podcasts and whatever platform you're listening on. You'll be able to leave a review there, I'm sure. The second thing is check out our Facebook page, our Instagram page, and our YouTube channel. Our YouTube channel has a new episode that goes live each week, and you can leave a comment under those videos. We try and read every single one, and it means that we really can adapt the teaching to you. And then the third place is you can actually email us. So if you send us an email to that's ASK at absolute-dogs.com, then our team read them, they let us know about them, they can advise you on what your next steps might be in the game changer world.
To be honest, our team are absolutely amazing. They work 7 days a week.
Yeah.
Obviously they have breaks, but they work between
There's
each
more
other.
than one person,
there are a few of them, and basically just to make sure you're good. And most importantly, they want to serve. They're here to help. So if you've got a question, a problem, something you want to get in touch with us in any way, but ask at absolute-dogs.com. If we can help, we want to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, where are we?
So,
number 3, or are we still number 2?
Second pillar, quick summary of the second pillar. It's all about engagement with you. That means having great experiences with your dogs. That means, in the game changer world, playing games and playing lots of different games.
And the variety that you have is really important. If you don't already have enough variety, you know what? We can absolutely show you a good time.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what we do. Like, we absolutely love to play games with dogs. And it's something that for our dogs, they've taught us cleverly.
Yeah.
Classic, my mini American, Tom's Poodles, they've taught us that variety is really the spice of life. If they don't have it, it's a
Yeah.
So, it's what we're about.
And so that's exactly why we created that online challenge that, many of you listening would have taken part in, that worldwide 25 days Sexier Than a Squirrel challenge. Play a game a day for 25 days. And you actually, through that process, you teach the 3 pillars that we're talking about right now. So
that's exactly what it's about, right? Like it works through the 3 pillars to get the results that it does.
Yeah, absolutely. So the third pillar. This one is that you need to teach your dog that engagement can happen through you. Now, what we mean by that is that we don't want to be the nags in the world, the people that are the fun police. They limit the freedom. They're always telling dogs what to do. Quite the opposite. We want to inspire great behavior. And so that sometimes means letting our dogs do what they love to do. And that might be sniffing, that might be running, that might be swimming. But it's got to kind of happen through us, or we've got to be involved in that picture in some way.
So an example that I had a good few years ago now with a dog I was working with, a training student, was every time that her dog came back to her, she would immediately let him go for a swim. Mm-hmm. But the way he came back was he came back through her legs, and she would hold his collar and then let him go. Yeah. So it would be through the legs into like a middle position, if you're used to our training. So into like a middle position, hold his collar. Yeah. As soon as he did that, it would be, okay, go. And he would go swimming. Yeah. And so he would be able to go swimming on that, because that's how to say go swimming. He would go on that cue. And so it was a really cool opportunity to go swimming every time. Now, he loved to swim. So beach, ponds, to be honest, he would swim in the kitchen sink if he was allowed. It absolutely was a really powerful reinforcer for him. And that's how it happened, always through the owner.
Absolutely. I remember I used to take Illy, my very first standard poodle, to the beach. And the thing that she used to absolutely love, and she was never successful, but she just loved trying, was she would see seagulls kind of like sitting on the water, kind of bobbing up and down. And so what would happen is I would ask for, 20 seconds of heel work. And I'm talking like obedience, competition, heel work. And her reward would not be food, would not be toy. She would get to charge at the water and try and swim to the seagulls. But of course, the seagulls would always just fly off.
What more powerful opportunity can you offer your dog than the freedom that they so want? Like, that's always going to overpower a piece of kibble.
And of course, when the seagulls flew off, what did she do? She was like straight back at me, being like, right, Dad, I'm going to do the heel work, make the seagulls land on the water again, and then let me go.
And that's the cool thing, right? Like, she got so many, it's like a real double up of reinforcers. She gets the run, she gets the water, or triple up, she gets the seagulls moving, and then she gets to do it all over again. Like, honestly, and what I loved about when I was working with my client who we used this with, it was just so much fun to see her dog dart into middle, dart into having his collar grabbed, because he loved that opportunity to go out and chase again.
Yeah. Now, one distraction, one challenge, one behavior struggle that people often contact us about, and it's, if you read about it, you'll see lots of controversial thoughts on it, is dogs who sniff a lot and ignore their owners because they're sniffing. Now, there are kind of tend to be two extreme opinions on this, and that is that either dogs should not be sniffing and they should not be allowed to sniff, or sniffing's very, very enriching, it boosts their confidence, it calms them, and therefore we should just let them sniff.
They need it all the time.
Yeah. The reality is that we're very much that, yes, sniffing is a valuable, valuable gift that we can give our dogs, and it does build their confidence, and it does calm them, and it does boost their optimism. But we also need to make sure that they're not practicing disengaging from us through sniffing, because otherwise what they rehearse, they become. And so what we teach, and actually...
just explain that, Tom, because I think that's a really important one, because you said it super fast, as both of us do speak super fast. We have to apologise, that's us. And just explain that about how they're disengaging there.
So let's say you're I don't know, let's say you come to us and you say, okay, my dog literally just does not listen to me, right? Does not listen to me. And when they see another dog, they can't disengage from the other dog. And no matter how much I call their name, they just stare at the other dog. Well, we might ask you some questions about the rest of your walk, and we might ask you, how does your dog behave when you go through the front door? And you might say something like, oh, well, when we go through the front door, they're very excited, and they pull to the end of the lead, their nose goes to the ground, and basically their nose is fixed to the ground for the entire walk until they see the other dog. Now, the point is that's not about the other dog, is it? The battle's already lost on the first step, because your dog's already disengaged from you, and you can't get their attention, and they're just practicing disengaging from you by attaching their nose to the ground. So yeah, there's value in sniffing, but what we do, and it's actually one of the games that we teach in the 25 Days Sexier Than a Squirrel Challenge, is we teach our dogs a go sniff cue. So we actually tell our dogs to sniff, they have a sniff, they re-engage with us, we maybe do a bit more work and we walk a little bit more, and then we reward them for their great behavior with telling them to go sniff again. So you get the win-win. You get the benefit of a dog that is focused on you and engaged with you, and they're experiencing the world through you, but also they get the benefit of experiencing the world, which really, owning a dog, that's what it's all about, to give them an amazing life. So those of you in the Sexier Than a Squirrel challenge, you can find that game. I forget which day you learn it on, but basically it's the Go Sniff game, and you can find it. The Go Sniff
game has literally so many different opportunities once you start using it. So you'll love it when you're playing it. So literally, like Tom said, it's in the Sexier Than a Squirrel program. Watch the video, play the game, get the real life results, because they are simple. Immense.
Absolutely.
Immense.
And if you have not yet jumped into the challenge, there's no better time to do it, because we've just updated all of the lessons with even more teaching in them, and there's a 70%, well, over 70% discount at the moment. So you can get 25 days of tuition for just £27, single payment, no recurring payments.
And I think the cool thing is you get to keep this for life, including all upgrades. So you get to keep this
massive benefit
forever and ever.
And if you want to pay in US dollars, it's $32 US. So super affordable and amazing results. And over 60,000 people have been through it all over the world, which is insane. So guys, they were the 3 pillars of a focused dog: disengagement, engagement with you, and thirdly, engagement through you. Make sure that you're building each of those pillars each and every day.
Is an amazing building block for the relationship that you thought you'd lost or you'd never have. And actually we can recreate and rebuild that from the ground up.
Absolutely. So with that, guys, that was this episode of the Sexier Than a Squirrel podcast. We will see you, hear from you, speak to you next week in the next episode. It's going to be a really good one, guys, so make sure you tune in, and we will see you next time. Remember, stay sexy. Hey, before you go, have you taken part in the worldwide Sexier Than a Squirrel challenge?
It's a 25-day online video program, huge energy, amazing community, and over 6,000 people are already taking part.
The only question is, you know where you are today, where do you want to be 25 days from now? Head to absolutedogs.me/sexy.